Hi, folks. It's Dr. Ted Kaufman coming to you live and direct from the Crystal Star Ranch high in the Rocky Mountains. It's good to be with you again, and we wish you a happy holiday. It's holiday season here in the high country, and we just wish you the very best, the happiest, healthiest new year possible coming up. We want to talk to you today about the most important issue on the planet, and that is how to be happy every moment of every day for the rest of our lives. If we could all master this one principle, then there would be no wars, there'd be no starvation. We'd gain on the disease process like Sherman going to the sea, and life would be a very, very pleasant process. Unfortunately, we have not learned how to be happy every moment of every day. So I share this lecture around town and with small businesses here in town and with doctors' offices. And I use a styrofoam display, and I'm going to share that with you here in a moment. And we're going to talk for the next few minutes about how to be genuinely and consistently happy for the rest of your life. If you measure happiness on a 10-point scale, imagine what number you would give yourself. Are you a 10 on a 10-point scale, or are you down from that just a little? Maybe a 9, or even an 8, or a 7. Some folks are down at a 6. As a matter of fact, average is about 6.4. When I take surveys across the audiences that I lecture with, um, the average happiness index is about 6.4 on a 10-point scale, with 10 being maximum happiness. So today we're going to see if we can't show you how to boost it up one more level, or maybe two or three, depending on your circumstances and on your willingness to hear what we have to say. I encourage you not to believe what I share with you today, but rather to experiment with it. Try it on, see if it fits for you. Thoughts become things, so it's important to hang on to the good ones. And this is a really beneficial thought, and that is, happiness is not a function of circumstance. It's not a function of what's going on around us, but rather it's a function of choice. In each moment of choice, we have the power to decide whether or not we're going to be happy. Why is it important to be happy? Well, it's really important for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which is you're just more pleasant to be around. If we're working with folks, we like to work with happy people. If we're in a family, we like to be with happy family members. If we're a boss, we like to have our employees be happy for us and with our customers. And the interesting thing is, happy people are more productive at work. There are multiple psychological studies showing that that's true, and they're healthier. There are a lot of health studies showing that happy people have less migraines, they have less bleeding ulcers, they have lower blood pressures. They are just a happier group of people. And we all show up at our weakest point. When we're under stress, some people do have cognitive dysfunction. Others have high blood pressure, others have seizures, some have ringing in the ears, others have increased pulse rate or arrhythmia, and so it goes on down the line. So it's really important to know how to be happy, but it's more important once you know how to apply that, because knowing how to be happy without choosing it is like, well, I don't know what I could make an analogy to there. It just isn't effective. Knowing how and not using it is like, I guess, knowing there's gold in the mine and not digging for it. So if you folks would bear with me here, I'm going to lift up this prop and go through it with you, and give you a chance to see what you think about the concept that we have the power to be happy in every moment of time, depending on how we choose to react to the circumstances around us. Hans Selye, the world's foremost authority on stress, says stress isn't what happens to an organism, but rather the organism's inappropriate or inadequate response to a stimulus. Stress isn't what happens to us, but our inappropriate or inadequate response to that stimulus. So here we go. This is how that works. This is how to be consistently and genuinely happy It's the rest of the story about a religious concept that was shared many years ago. This is the lifeline up here on top. This is what happens to us externally. And there's really no control over what goes on in our lives. We don't control what day it is, what time it is, what the weather's going to do, what the Russians are going to do, what the politicians are going to do. Good Lord, we don't even control what our wife is going to do. So there's very little control over what goes on externally. And that ranges from tragedy on one hand to miracle on the other. You folks have probably had experiences with both on a minor scale, a few miracles maybe, and a few tragedies in your life, but mostly life happens in this range. This is a continuum from a tragedy on this side to a miracle on that side, and it's consistently like that day in and day out. We can take almost any situation that happens, anything that someone says or does, or what circumstances happen around us, and we can put it into a place somewhere on that continuum. The living line here is how we respond to what's going on up here. Now, we've been given total control on this line. Living is our emotional response to what's happening up here. And then not only the emotional response, but the action that we take based on that emotional response. So what happens is, at least for me, the first 35 years of my life, when a tragedy went on, I had a tragic response. I'd get a broken bone or get sick, and I'd have a response here. If I had an average run-of-the-mill Monday or routine day, I had an average routine response. The miracle or two that went on for me, I had a miraculous response, but I was totally at the effect of an environment I had no control over. So my life was a roller coaster. Maybe you've experienced that. Most of us have. We've had good days and bad days. People used to say, have a good day, and I'd say, hey, thanks, I hope I do. Meaning, I hope good things happen to me so I can have a good day. Anymore, I say, thank you, I'll do my best. Which means I'll commit myself to having a good day no matter what's going on around me. Now, I can't guarantee you that I'm going to have a great day, because if there's a real tragedy in my life, I'm going to have a crummy day. I've been programmed to do it that way, and you know, it's not inappropriate to be sad if you lose someone you love. It's just a place to visit for a period of time. For some of us, that's a reasonably short period. For others, it's a medium period. Some folks, it takes a long time to deal with that loss. But what doesn't work is to make grief a place to live and not a place to just spend time at until we process out our pain and then move on. We can do that. We have the power to do that. It's healthy for us to do that, and it doesn't serve anyone for us to hang on to the pain. So as we go through life, we have a choice about how we're going to respond down here. And this place is called Far Out. If we can take all the stuff that happens up here, even the tragic stuff, and ultimately move it over to this place and enjoy this spot right here, that place is called Far Out. If you knew John Denver back in the day or heard any of his commentary, a lot of times he liked that word and he used that phrase, and I borrowed that from him as I came to the realization of this process. I was at my home one evening, and I was in my living room, and we were going to have a small group over of people that I had been doing a series of lectures for, and I was out of things to teach them. And so I stood there in front of a large whiteboard with a magic marker, and I just put it out to the universe. I said, I'm out of information that's new, and if you have something new for me, bring it to me now. And it did. My hand began to write, and I wrote this whole thing out, not exactly like this, but similar to this, and that was my lecture for that evening, and I've been using it ever since. And what came to me was that all the things that happen in the universe happen as a natural process of the process of life itself. The internal response is really a matter of our programming and our personal conscious choice. First of all, if we want to be happy, we have to be conscious, because every moment we're off purpose, we feel that if we're conscious about it. I write mission statements for corporations. I help them prepare their mission statements so that they're short, concise, powerful, meaningful, and something people can learn, something that the employees can actually know and operate from that base of knowledge and that stance. The mission statement is where we stand to take a swing at the game of life. And so we begin each mission statement with the recommendation that they use "we consistently enjoy." And if they're producing widgets, we consistently enjoy producing quality widgets at a fair and reasonable price for our customers. So if you start your mission statement for life with "we consistently enjoy," then your commitment is to enjoy, to be happy with your family, with your neighbors, with your people that you work with. And if you operate from that premise, life gets immeasurably better overnight, which is why I say this is a really valuable, powerful tool. Tragedy is, we all know what a tragedy is. I don't have to define that for you. It's one of those things that when you see it, you know it. And vice versa, the few miracles that we get in our lives, there's no definition of what qualifies as a miracle. For some, it's a small thing. For some, to others, it would be a very large thing. And certainly the birth of every child is a miracle. If we inherit the Irish sweepstakes, that's a miracle as well. But over here on this side, the emotions that we have the option of start with fear, anger, worry, guilt, blame, jealousy, frustration, and right on off the page with all those emotions that we normally call negative emotions. I don't call them negative because there really is no negative or positive emotion. There's not a right or wrong emotion. There's just an emotion that works and there's one that doesn't. If we want to love and serve and nurture and care for one another, then there's a series of options that work there, and there's a series that don't. And you guys know the difference. I don't have to explain those to you. After you get through with the emotional part, then there is the action that responds. There's murder, stealing, lying, cheating, violence, road rage. All those different things qualify as inappropriate reactions to the emotion that we feel. Over on the other side, we've got love, peace, joy, acceptance, allowing, confidence, calm, non-judgment, and then out of that we've got nurturing, charity, honesty, making amends, being kind, and all that runs off the chart as well. I just give you a few selections so you get a sense of the difference between the two. And we've been given three things with which to play the game of life. There are gifts coming in, and that is a human body, such as it is, time, the stuff that life is made of, and the power of choice. The power of choice is our option to be conscious or to be unconscious, and if we are conscious, to choose something that is responsible, something that works, not something that doesn't. We've got emotions, we've got actions, and we've got accountability. So this is how it's set up. Now, what was the basis of this from original history? Well, I like to go back to a time when there was a tragedy that a man was killed. He was killed tragically with slow suffering death. He was killed at the hand of others, and he was someone's son. The ultimate tragedy. Dying is tragic because we all love life. We all want to hang on to life. For the most part, there are exceptions to that, but generally and normally, we want to live as long, as happy, and as healthy as we can be. So someone taking our life from us is definitely a tragedy. And if they take our life and it's a slow suffering death, that's even more tragic. And if it's done to one of our children, excuse me, it's even more difficult than if it's done to us, generally speaking. So 2,000 years ago, they took a guy up on a hill and they had beat him nearly to death. But before he died from the beating, they crucified him, and they put a crown of thorns on his head. They stuck a spear in his side to see if he was done, and so they could go home for dinner, and he died on that cross. Now, there are a lot of explanations of why, but what he said was, "I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And what he meant by that was he shows us how to live by the way he died. Now, for those of you who are not Christians or who don't believe, don't have faith in the system, this still is applicable to you because the message is universal. Everyone has the power to choose to be happy unless they've been brain damaged or there's some reason they can't make conscious choice. But everyone else has the power to be happy every moment of every day. And why do we not do that? We don't do that because, number one, we don't realize that we can. Number two, we're not conscious enough to realize that we're not being happy in the moment. And number three, we don't have the discipline to continue to up-level our thinking, to up-level our choosing to the next higher level. If you're a 6 on a 10-point scale, and I know there are a lot of people who are, you can choose to be a 7. And it just starts by, number one, realizing you're a 6 and realizing you can be a 7 by choosing it and holding that thought until you pop up for a moment or two or three. We can't choose to be happy for the rest of the week. We're not guaranteed we're going to get to live for the rest of the week. A bus might run over us. We can't even choose to be happy guaranteed for the rest of the day because the building might fall in us. You just never know. That bus might run through the building and run over us. We don't know. But we do have the power to choose happiness now and now and now and now and now and now. But it takes a little work. We get lazy. We get lazy living in our preconditioned belief system. And that is that I'm about as happy as I can be. Well, that's true if you're 9 or 10, but if you're lower than that, I would suggest there are other possibilities. Again, I tell you, you don't have to believe what I'm sharing with you here today, but I would ask you to consider it. I would ask you to give it a try to see how you can make this work out for you. And if you have any questions, call me. My phone number is 480-221-1400, and we'll talk more about how to be happy every moment of every day for the rest of your life. Join us on YouTube at Dr. Ted Talks. Ask for Dr. Ted Coffman, spelled with a C, Coffman, and listen in. Right now we're in the process of doing a narrative on the book We, W-E. I like to describe the book as the constellations of wisdom and enlightenment collided, and where those constellations collided, the stardust from that collision was inspiration for the book. This is stardust. If you take this and apply it to your life can get immediately and immeasurably better. It's up to you. This is Dr. Ted up on the Crystal Star. You folks have a great day. We appreciate you spending a minute with us. We know you could be a lot of different places. It's time for me to go feed and water the horses. You have a great day.